Hokey smokes, folks. Have we got a show planned for you this Sunday on the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki? Believe it or not, we have a couple of members of the band ZZ Top on the show. And I can't. What? They're not band members from ZZ Top? Right. Yes. They're actually Kelsay and Tristan Shaw from Possibility Place Nursery in Monee, Illinois, a wonderful family owned operation that sells native plants of all kinds, especially trees and shrubs. We're going to talk about that. They shoot from the hip. It's one of the things I like about Tristan and Kelsay. And we're going to talk not only about trees and shrubs, we'll talk about other natives, and we're going to talk about the industry, and we're going to talk about a lot of things we think you're going to be interested in. Now, here's the deal. We were testing this operation here, the spaceship that I pilot every week. In advance of the show, and I just decided to hit record, and so I told them afterward, I said, hey, that was just recorded, and they were cool with it. So let's join our conversation already in progress.
Well, we got approached just a couple of weeks ago by a guy who wants us to inoculate a customer who wants us to inoculate our roots so that it has the fungus association, mycorrhizal fungus, and we're like, we don't have to. It's like, well, why not? Well, because it's already in our greenhouses. We don't use we don't use fungicides, so it's already showing up on the roots of many of the species that we grow. And he thought I was lying to him.
Hmm.
So I mean, that there's a lot of things we we neglect, and to our benefit, frankly. Our plants perform very, very well because of it. We see very positive impacts from just the way that we do things, and sometimes it's just keeping it low tech that does us better.
So you're saying that if you don't put the fungicides on, the mycorrhizal fungi will appear
That's
naturally.
what, well, now the fungicides last in greenhouse environments, what, Tris, 20, 30, 40 years? What is the one I was reading about the other day?
What?
They last forever. Um, and so, I mean, we just have never used them, and they show up in our greenhouses. I have to want to double check that to make sure I'm not a liar, but I believe I was reading about one fungicide that they it was sticking around in greenhouses for a long time.
We definitely don't want to mislead you either that we are doing things. We are doing things very. Um, we do it for
To
profit.
get the
We are
plants moving along. Yeah, yeah. We
a product, so we are. Nothing is. Our plants are natural, but the overall method to get to
process
that,
is not.
the process
No
is
way.
not this mix that we use, the synthetic fertilizers that we use. We do use chemicals. We stay away from, like Kelsey just said, we don't use miticides, fungicides, insecticides, which lets butterflies and other insects live in our greenhouses and find those host species, like Kelsey just mentioned, the painted lady and the pussy toads. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
we have painted ladies right now in our greenhouse laying eggs on pussy toes. So, there are things that we can, we don't, that we, like I just mentioned with the insecticides, miticides, fungicides, that we can definitely get away from just by doing best cultural practices. However, when we are doing something to try to, we are a business trying to make money, we need a very uniform crop. So our soilless media has to be uniform when we water. There's a lot of things that have to happen, and the only way that we can achieve that is by making sure that our inputs are very uniform.
Well, the point you're making, and it's a good one, is that you're not doing all of this out of the goodness of your hearts. It is a business after all, and you're
Oh
trying.
yeah.
Ultimately, you're doing the right thing because you're selling natives, and not just natives, but natives from a specific region. You try to collect seeds from what, 100-mile radius, 150-mile radius?
Yes.
Yeah, that's about right. I will travel a little further for a couple of species that are hardy here, simply because well, I have to, and they offer certain amounts of ornamental impact and are either benign or still have positive pollinator impact, like our magnolia species, not native here. However, um, I'm getting a lot of bumblebee activity. I have a soft spot in my head for a species of magnolia called Magnolia macrophyllus, the big leaf magnolia, because my college professor, that was his love, the love of his life was one of these things. And I have two of the last plants that I ever collected from the seed that, before he passed away from that, and they're setting seed in my yard. And I went out and looked. I got bumblebees all over them.
It
It's fantastic, but I don't know if I'm doing harm by having them there, but they bloom late. It is a source of pollen and nectar for these insects. I would like to think that that's a positive impact. However, it is truly a non-native species to Illinois.
I have a heptacodium in my backyard, and
Mm.
last
Oh, there you
fall
go.
I love the heptacodium. All right, a seven suns tree. If you're not familiar with it, and I need to tell you this because I've been recording for about the last 5 minutes, just for the to ease you guys into this whole thing. But the thing is, last fall was chock full of bees, which it is every fall. At a time when
Hmm.
they're getting it together for winter, but it was also a monarch way station in my own backyard. I mean, I came out there and one day there were a dozen monarchs on it. I'm like, okay, this must be doing some good here. So it's not as if there are no non-natives that are worthwhile. It's we have to be a little more selective.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
and or at least smarter about the kind maybe being selective is that's that one of those arbitrary things that people think that they're doing because they go to a greenhouse and they're looking for something, like we'll bring up magnolia again. So they're looking at magnolia and they're going, oh, I want one of these magnolias, but they don't flower or line up with any of our truly you know um,
With phenology.
our yeah or any it's our worker. It doesn't do any of the heavy lifting that we need some of these plants to do, and a lot of our continentally native magnolias, your big leaf, your umbrella, your the cucumber tree, they bloom after they leaf out, so this is a much later date. You're getting possibly a better impact, and if I'm going for an early season flower, I'm going to be looking at maybe Prunus americana or something like that, where I'm going to get that big flower show, but I'm going to be doing a lot of work for native pollinators because it's lining up with what they're looking for, the kinds of flowers that they're looking for. Your native crab, these species are going to take that early spring flower and do more work with it for a broader base of pollinators than, some of these early flowering species that are taking up space in our yards,
Well, what you're saying is
if that makes any sense.
the phenology is out of sync for
Yes, effectively, yes.
yeah. And that's another reason why you go with natives is that climate can mess things up. Weather patterns in any given year can mess things up.
Hmm.
But in general, you're looking to have the flowers in sync with the insects, with the birds, with the mammals. Everybody's
Well,
happy then.
in the types of flowers that the certain species are looking for at that time of year. Pawpaw blooms at that time of year, for example, because the insects that are looking for it to flower at that time of year, that's when they come out, and they are looking for that type of flower. That the aroma, the things that bring them in, the color, everything about it is going to bring that pollinator to that plant. And when you're planting species that don't have, I guess, the right kind of flowers, can also make that maybe not as big a positive impact as you think that you're doing than maybe using these
Oh,
species.
yeah, and like we just said earlier, the industry does a lot of selecting sterile flowers, which definitely bring insects into your yard. They're going to see that flower and they're going to go to that grocery store, and there's not going to be any food for them. So that's the other thing that you want to line up with your native habitat. is making sure that when it flowers, it is a non-sterile flower.
All right. Well, listen, guys, I was going to tell you, hey, we need to record something before Sunday's show, but I just did it, and I hope you like it. Um, and I want to remind folks right here, and I will, and I'm doing all of this on the fly, folks. This is kind of what the conversation is going to be like on Sunday when we have Kelsay and Tristan Shaw from Possibility Place Nursery on our program. You need to tune in at 9 a.m. Go to YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're also streaming on Facebook and Twitter and on our website, MikeNovak.net. So join us Sunday morning, 9 a.m. I think you're going to really enjoy this conversation.